we're gonna go through them. So all the color groups got it right, but we're just gonna,
Everybody gets points.
Well, yellow was first, so congrats, yellow. But you are all special in my heart. Okay, so number 1. It says, Grayson attends a party with some friends who are not an AOP. She takes a picture with her friends and puts it on Instagram. In the picture, there is no visible sign of alcohol or other illegal substances, and Grayson, along with her friends, all look presentable. Anybody want to explain why?
Because it's not inappropriate.
Well, without a circular definition.
You can't tell anything wrong just by looking at the picture.
Yeah, so they're like, you can't tell what her legal drinking age is, but let's assume she's 21 or over. So she's not wearing an AOP logo. She's not like within the 8-hour rule of a new student conference event or AOP event. And also she's not like promoting any irresponsible drinking habits or behaviors. So, number 2, Jess was sitting at a table when a new student started making sexist comments. Also, the isms that I referred to earlier to like stay away from them, there's like sexism, racism. I didn't define it, sorry. But anyways, Jess felt uncomfortable and noticed that other students felt the same way. She tried to change the subject, but the new student continued. Jess didn't want to leave the other new students at the table, so she texted one of the execs on duty about the situation and asked for their help. So that's AOP appropriate. So normally, like, you're not allowed to use your cell phones because you should be like present during the events for the new students. But obviously, if you feel uncomfortable, that's one of those situations where you are allowed to contact an EA or an exec. So there you go. That's why you have them. Okay. Tammy, who is 21, was planning on going to Northgate with her friends. Before she left, she remembered to change out of her clothes that had AOP logos on them and into non-AOP affiliated apparel. I also like the alliteration that I had in that sentence. So, that's appropriate because, 1, she's of legal drinking age, but also she like remembered to take off her AOP logos. If she had kept her AOP logos on, then it would have been not appropriate. So this one is about a family member that came and they were upset and they started like kind of yelling at Carter. And he tried to reassure them, but they weren't having it. So, Carter's a she, my bad. She excused herself and went to find an exec. Again, that's okay. If it's an uncomfortable situation like we talked about, you can excuse yourself, and as long as you find somebody to like help that family member, help that new student, it's perfectly okay to walk away from an uncomfortable situation. We care about new students and family members, but we care about you too. Okay. So then this one is about a new student who asked about hazing on campus, and Leslie was just talking about talk to them about the strict hazing policy on campus and change the subject. So like we said in a previous presentation, it's good to like give facts or give statistics, which is what she did, and then she changed the subject, which is the best option. Let's see, making up requirements, that's good. Trying to find one that y'all found tricky. 27? Okay.
17.
Okay. Gotcha, yeah. So John had just gotten in a minor car accident on his way to CheckIn Tours and was still fuming 30 minutes later. He approached the CheckIn Tours coordinators and told them he didn't think he could be friendly and welcoming today. So that's AOP appropriate. Obviously, we want you to be there and we want you to be positive and welcoming and to those new student family members. But if you are having a bad day and you cannot shake it and you think you're not going to be nice or welcoming to those new student family members, it's okay to be human. As long as you let us know and we're okay, maybe you could go bag or have a job that's not in front of the new student family members, or maybe if you're having a really bad day, you could go home and rest. We don't think y'all are machines or robots or anything. We know you're humans. Just let us know and keep us informed and in the loop. Anything else that was confusing? Shall I get number 29, why it was wrong, the Northgate drinking with friends 5 hours before he was going to pre-con? Yeah, we have an 8-hour rule. It's in our bylaws. If you want to read them, it's a good read. 24? Okay, I'm going to do 24 first. So, Mason directed a family member toward Rudder by saying that it was the tall tower right next to the MSC. So that's not AOP appropriate because you're using Aggie slang, so MSC instead of saying Memorial Student Center. Like if this is the first time you're saying the Memorial Student Center, you need to say the full name because otherwise you say MSC and they're like, what? And like they're already confused, so they're just gonna like nod and then walk away and be like, no, I'm still confused. So just make sure like before you Aggie slangify everything, say Memorial Student Center, and then you can be like, or we abbreviate it and we call it the MSC, or like the Student Computing Center, or we call it the SCC, just so they know. Was 21 one of those that y'all yelled out?
They were just saying it before.
Oh yeah. Okay, Adrienne, who's 22, was tagged in some photos of her at a party. In the photo, she is taking shots and already clearly intoxicated. She likes the photo and then forgets about it and gets ready for family track. Okay, so this isn't a photo that like she put herself on a social media site, but it is a photo that has her affiliated with it, and in it it says she's like already clearly intoxicated and taking more shots. So that's not really appropriate drinking behavior, not something that we want to promote for the new students and family members. And even if a new student and family member, if you're like, nah, I'm not gonna follow any of them, or they're not gonna follow me on social media sites, one, you don't really have much control of that, I guess. But anyways, you just never know who's looking at your social media profiles, and we always want you to be aware that like you're a role model to these new students and family members, and like the family members look to you as like a reassurance that their students is coming into welcoming and good hands, and the new students look to you to be a role model. So we want you to be putting forth that best behavior for AOP. Okay, so if any of those other ones specifically like tricked you or whatnot, you want to talk to me about it later, you certainly can. But the bottom line is you are always in the spotlight. So you're an orientation leader and we love that, and we want you to also promote us in the best light as possible. What questions do you have? Not questions? Okay, if you have any questions, come ask me later. Taylor Swift. Okay, next is check-in tours with Nelby.
Whoa, what field is that? Because it ain't Kyle Field.
Howdy. All right, so obviously we are check-in tours. So,
I know, but I was kidding because it doesn't have a
what is check-in? First of all, check-in serves as the new students' official welcome to Aggieland. So we are the first faces that they're gonna see. So we want to give them a firm howdy and welcome them with smiling faces. Okay, so our objectives. For the new students and their family members, they need to receive all necessary information, and they also need to be informed of all possible optional activities. So they're going to have a lot going on, and we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about that. But there's a lot of scheduled events that they have going on throughout the day, so we're going to encourage them to continue to go to those. Orientation leaders, as an OL, you're going to gain some important leadership skills. Yay. OLs will serve as a resource for new students and their family members, so whenever they have any questions, they'll go right to you, and you're going to be very knowledgeable, and you're going to be able to answer them. And lastly, we're going to reflect positivity on Texas A&M, AOLP, and FSP. Yay.
All right, so just a quick outline. Right up. Yeah. So a quick outline of how check-in tours will run. Both, do it.
Oh, I don't want to wake up early.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
You'll never sleep in again. So we'll have for both programs, they both run at the same time. So OLs will arrive at 7:30 for both. And then between 7:30, 7:45, and then until 8 o'clock, we'll be assigning jobs. And then you'll be getting ready for the job that you're signed up for, or you signed up for. And then the actual check-in will begin at 8 o'clock. And then later we'll have tours leaving at 8:15, and then they'll leave about every 15 minutes. And then it'll run, check-in ends at 9:30, but there's always those stragglers that come up, so we're not gonna, just slam the door on their face. We're gonna be nice, check them in as quickly as possible, because they do have an event at 9:45 that's mandatory. And then we're going to try to get everything put away, and then for tours jobs we'll go into a little bit more later, where you'll start Thank you. You'll start tearing down. We'll let you know when to start doing that, and then we're going to try to have everyone out by 10 o'clock. So then now we're going to go into, oh, yes.
What happens if someone misses the new student conference?
I believe there is a makeup conference. Yeah, they'll have to reschedule, and because they will have to go to a new student conference.
What if they're late to check in?
If
I show up at 9:40, can I check in?
Like a new student, you will be able to go check in at the help desk, which will be located, different location, but there will be one at Rudder Tower. All right, so now if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to go into the check-in. I'm sorry. The check-in roles. So we're going to go. All right, so the 3 roles you'll have for check-in. We'll have a greeter, goodbyer, and mingler. Greeters will stand at the top of the escalator going into the zone, and you'll basically stand there, welcome, good morning, that all thing, everything like that. And then you'll also tell the students they'll go check in off to one side, and then their family members will go to the opposite side to check in. So you're just kind of like have to be that person to separate the family member and the student. A lot of them won't want to do that, but you will have to let them know they check in different places. Goodbyer will stand by the elevator and ask for any final questions. Just a main question you'll get is, where do I go next? So you'll answer, most likely it'll be Rudder Tower, or you can let them know optional things they can do, like get their IDs made, and sports pass, yes. Mingler, there will be several of these. You'll just kind of be walking around the zone. A lot of people will go up to you and ask you questions, but we do promote that you go up to new students and family members, because a lot of them won't want to go up and ask you questions themselves. And then minglers and pretty much anyone here, you'll also be pumping up the different programs, evening programs. So I guess mingling new students, you'll pump up student track. And then to family members, we do have family track. And then, all right, so next job, student spielers. This, where I said the greeter would separate the new students and family members. The students will go over to there will be a bunch of lines, and there will be student spielers, and this is where you let them know, like, howdy, welcome to your new student conference. You'll give them name tag, check them in a resource bag, and that's where they'll get their conference schedule. And then once you talk with them, you'll help them out. Sometimes there'll be notifications on the back of their name card, so I'll go over those a little bit more later. But you'll help them through that. They'll have a lot of questions. And then kind of just more encouraging optional programs in the evening. And then on the other side, we'll have family spielers, and they'll be doing pretty much the same thing except for the family members. Still get a name tag, they'll get a bag, and they'll probably have more of the logistical questions, like when and where to do stuff. Can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. And then you'll also pump up, stop laughing at me, pump up family track. And another job we'll have is there will be a transportation table in the zone, so the new students and family members will be able to go and purchase a parking pass for the new student conference. It's just a week pass. It'll be $5, I believe, and they'll just have to put it on their dash whenever they go out to their car. Then, bagging days. So those bags I mentioned that those bags I mentioned that we hand out to both new students and family members, someone has to make them, and that someone is you. So there'll be bagging days. Typically, if it's a full conference week, it'll be on the Monday of every week. But on like half weeks, it'll be on the first pre-conference day of that week. And then, yeah.
All right, howdy again, guys. So next we're going to move on to a little bit of the tours. And so the jobs are minglers, water, surveys, virtual, and TGLs. So you might be freaking out right now. You're like, I don't want to give a tour. Well, luckily enough, if you're not a TGL, you don't have to. And so what's going to happen is I'm going to go in depth in all these lovely things. Okay, so the water OL. What we're going to have you do is just pretty much fill up the water and then go out to some water stops. We'll give you a cart, we'll give you a dolly so you can go out and put out waters on specific water stop routes, water breaks. Yeah. Okay. So that's where you're gonna put them. So whenever the tours go by, you can they can have water and relax a little bit in the shade because it's gonna be hot during the summer. Pretty much you're gonna do that around like 8 o'clock before the first tour, which leaves at 8:15, and then you're gonna go retrieve them when the last tour goes out. And so you can just dump out the water pretty close to any grass because they're gonna need it, and you can come back. So that's what that water OL does. Next, we're gonna move on to the survey OLs. The survey OLs, what they're gonna be doing is once we've finished making up the tour route, you're gonna have an end destination. It might be the MSC, so you can probably just post up and wait for the tour to finish up. And once you do that, you're just gonna ask them very politely. The TGL will send a reminder, but just if they wanna, have a survey of how their TGL was, how their experience was on a tour. And so that takes like 5 seconds and it's really nice and easy. So that's what the survey OL does. Virtual tours. So virtual tours is probably going to be an everybody role as well. And so what you're going to be doing is probably meeting somewhere like in here in Rudder, like 301, 601, just wherever it is that check-in. And Nathan or I will let you know where it's going to be at. But all you do is you're going to set up the alternative tour, which will be just like a regular tour, except it's going to be on a computer. And so we're going to give you like a step-by-step folder on how to set up virtual tours, how to run it. All you do is run it and you sit back, and if any parents or anybody have any questions, you can answer those at the very end. So that's what the virtual tour does. So here again is our afternoon check-in tours. So we have a morning check-in and we have an afternoon check-in. And so for the afternoon check-in, we have 2 o'clock is when we want your lovely smiling faces to be there. 2:15 is when you're going to get your job assignment. 2:30 is when check-in actually does start. 2:45, the first tour will leave. 4 o'clock, check-in ends, and 4:15, tear down, gather all equipment. We'll give you some last-minute reminders, some last-minute announcements, and then we're going to be sending you out around 4:30. So does anybody have any questions up to this point?
What do the water OLs do in between setting out and putting out?
So what the water OLs are going to be doing, they're going to set out the water, and then they'll come back to the zone and help mingle, get new students and their family members to their next location, wherever that might be. So, any other questions? All right, awesome. I know.
All right, so when I mentioned the student will go to check-in, and I said there may be some notifications on the back of their name card. Those are typically, they're just 2-letter symbols, and they'll mean various things, such as like AH, will be high school transcript. That'll be a very popular one. It won't affect them like at all during their new student conference, but if they don't, if the advisors, yeah, if A&M doesn't receive their transcript, then it'll cause problems in the spring semester. So that won't do anything during the new student conference. The only 2 notifications that will do anything during the new student conference is the bacterial meningitis, it'll be AM, or international student, which will be IC. The international student notification, that just means that they are an international student. They need to check in international student services at Bazell Hall. And the bacterial meningitis, that's state law. Everyone has to have it, and if they haven't received the shot and turned it in, then they will have that. And if they don't have paperwork saying that they have gotten that shot with them there, then they will have to either find a way to get that paperwork up to us. And if they do, you'll go to the help desk. It'll be, the help desk. Admissions, thank you. We'll go turn that in there. But if they don't have it, there'll be a paper on the table that'll have various locations of where you can get that shot. And then you can go to the next one, and this will go into more depth about the bacterial meningitis. It just asks, does the student have the bacterial meningitis hold? If no, then you can just check them in like normal. If they do, or if they do have the hold, then you have to ask, have you received the vaccination? If yes, and they don't have the, or if they do have the hold and they have received it, then you just have to ask them, do you have the documentation? And one of these will be set out on every table at the student check-in side, and it'll be there kind of as a resource. But if you do have any problems or any questions, then we'll have EAs, or we will be walking around and you'll be able to just ask us and we'll be able to further help. And like I mentioned, some other common notifications. age, I mentioned high school transcript, bacterial meningitis, and then there'll be like D4, D5, D6. That's just letting them know how many, basically the equivalent, how many Q drops do they have left. So it'll start at 6 if they haven't used any, and in the state of Texas we have 6, but here at A&M we're only allowed to use 4. So that's pretty much what that means. It doesn't affect registration at all. And then I also mentioned I see international students. They must check in with International Student Services at Bizdell Hall.
Okay, so we just ran through a lot of notifications with you. Might sound a little scary and daunting, and we actually have a lot more that we didn't get to show you. I'm sorry, but what we do have is a resource that you can use while you're at your table. We're going to have a list of common notifications that you'll see, and so you can refer back to that, or maybe if you see something that you don't recognize, again, you can get either an EA or you can get me or Nathan to, hopefully resolve that issue. So moving on into check-in policies. Is it my fault? No. Is it my problem? Yes. This is like a little saying that we like to use in ALP. So people will be mad for reasons you cannot control. It could be something simple as like they didn't have a parking pass, or I don't know. People will get at you for the smallest things. So just answer any questions that a family member or student might have. Just always remember, be polite and be very respectful, because they might be having a bad day. So we just want to make sure that they have a positive experience while they're here at A&M. And so answer the unasked question. I know this is very deep and philosophical, guys. But basically give the students or parents the information they want to know, not necessarily just what they ask. So just be very proactive, be able to, give them that information, but give them maybe a little bit more. It might help them. They might not necessarily ask it, they might not come up to you and ask it, but if you give them all that information, it should send them on the path to success. So. Some other check-in rules are no clumping. I know we've talked about this quite a lot, so I'm not going to continue to talk to y'all about it, but no clumping. We have dress code, so I'm pretty positive we're going to have what the dress code is going to look like this year, so be prepared and you'll see that later on. Be on time. Since we are checking in tours, we're sort of a sticklers for that, because we need y'all to be on time so that we can check in people and they can be on time to places. So please be on time. Do not use your cell phone. I know we talked about a little bit about that last week. Best option is probably leave it in the car, but if you have it, put it in your pocket, leave it on silent, only if it's an emergency, or if you need to contact an executive, please use it then, but only then. Lastly, stay calm when dealing with difficult situations. So again, be that presence, be that happiness, okay? Just gotta be that calm and mellow so everybody else can be that calm and mellow. So, any questions? Go for it.
Well, say the parents come in and they don't have a parking pass, where do we tell them to go get a parking pass for right then?
Okay, so do you remember that lovely transportation table that Nathan talked about?
Yes.
Okay, well, you're going to send them that way to go pick up a new student conference parking pass so they can park temporarily on campus. So he actually had his hand up first.
Who do you direct a parent to if they don't have their name tag there, or they want to register someone else for their student conference?
If the family member is not registered, there will be on-site registration. There should be a laptop or NSFP member with a laptop that will be doing that at every single table. You'll send them into their line and they'll be able to check, did they register and forgot to print a name tag? A lot of the times the people who registered late, NSFP prints the name tags in advance, and so their names just wouldn't have been printed.
For what reasons would we send anyone to the help desk? What did the help desk do?
Okay, so we have all the holds. Pretty much, No notification will require not checking in except for the bacterial meningitis. Everything else you can usually solve, usually pretty easy. They're just like, hey, this is a notification, that's all it is. It's not really a hold. But if they have any problems with maybe their high school transcript or that bacterial meningitis, then you can send them that way to the help desk or to admissions.
Well, beyond just the notifications, is there any other reason we'd send them there? Do they handle anything else?
They don't really handle it. I mean, they can. They're more than capable of handling it. But usually that's why we have the minglers on the floor. They can answer any questions. They can make sure that line's sort of small, and so they don't have to, they can primarily deal with the holds that are on accounts. So.
If they're missing a name tag.
If they're missing a name tag too, by the way. Any other questions? Those are great questions. Yes, sir.
Where do you send them if they bring in like a physical copy of their high school transcript or maybe like a dual credit?
So that is when you're going to send them to the admissions table or the help desk. But for high school transcript, it's going to be admissions. So, any other great questions? Going once, going twice, sold.
I find to say that.
All right, so you're still stuck with us. We're also going to talk about conflict management and how that'll help at check-in and tours, but this will really help you throughout your entire new student conference. All right, some things we're going to talk about. Firstly, what is conflict? And then we're going to talk about ears and how to be aware both personally and of conflict in others. And then we're going to talk about different forms of listening. Yeah. All right, so Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines conflict as a strong disagreement between people, groups, etc. that result in often angry arguments. And then as an orientation leader, you will be called to resolve different conflict situations because you are that leader, you are that person people look up to. And so you'll be able to, different situations like internal, and there will be situational.
Okay, go ahead, take a little bit of time. I want y'all to come up with some situations and where there might be a conflict. Make sure it's AOP appropriate though, please. So take some time in your color group, just talk for like a minute or two. I'm sorry. All right, everybody, let's reel it back in. Okay, one more minute. All right, guys, let's reel it back in. All right, can I have, who wants to give their idea? All right, let's go with Ozzy first. Sorry. I'm sorry. Mr. Ozzy, what did y'all come up with?
In the afternoon, the students and family members split up. What if you get up to conflict and then the parent just does not want to leave?
Okay. Okay. Can someone maybe think, how would you solve that situation? Repeat the situation, but please be louder.
All right. So in the afternoon, the family members and students split up, right? How would you solve the conflict if the family member doesn't want to leave the student? You know, those that are over-attached to them.
Okay, so pretty much it's the helicopter parent. What do you do?
Bruh, you in college.
They're going to be going to college soon. They're going to be on their own for a very long time. And this could be their opportunity to kind of like bridge over, right? Can that work? Like, because they're going to be on their own. Like, maybe not in those words, but like explain it.
Okay, Mr. Craig, you want to have a shot at it?
I tried.
Do you want to have a shot at it?
Not what you said.
It's okay, guys.
Be like, I understand that you want to stay with them. It's just during this time, there's information the parents need to get, or the family members need to get at their own programs. Students need to get their own information. So it's for the best interest of both parties that y'all go the separate ways, just y'all get the information we need to give y'all.
Perfect, sounds good. Okay, can we have another conflict? We're gonna do one more. One more. Y'all came up with the ideas, right? I hope.
I'm just gonna add, like, you could tell the parents that their students are gonna be in good hands as well, so, because we're gonna take care of them as leaders.
We're gonna
There you go. All right, so I need that conflict idea, somebody back there in the back. You, Shelby.
Orange came up with if a parent or a family member and a student is fighting about where to go next, how would you resolve that?
Okay, so did y'all all hear that? Parent member and their student are fighting on where to go next. How do you resolve that kind of conflict? So, Ben?
You can refer them to their book of like scheduling and say, well, it's 4:15 and right now it's this and that, so you have no choice but to go. Hey.
Okay, perfect. So to resolve that conflict, what you can do is actually refer them to their schedule. Usually they have either student-only sessions, or they have family-only sessions, or they have both. So you can always refer back to that manual and say, hey, look, you can be here at this time, this is what's going on, this is a mandatory session. And so you can encourage them to go to all the different sessions that we have throughout. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to continue moving on. And we're going to talk about the EAR method. So it's actually not all about this, it's not EARs. What the EAR method is actually is a tool for resolving conflict. So the first thing is called E for express. And so what you're doing then is expressing what you want and what you're doing to get there. And this is used more in like almost a group setting. And so this really applies to AOP. Let's say you have a conflict between two OLs. And maybe you have an OLM or a exec there, or maybe even another OL to maybe help moderate. What you do is you express what's going on in that situation, and you're expressing it to this third-party member, right? And so you're letting them know what you're doing and what the situation might be. A is for address. So why is it or why isn't it working? And so you're addressing the situation and you're saying, hey, this is what the steps I'm trying to do to resolve it. And you're trying to meet up halfway almost. And then lastly is resolve. So what are some of the ways in which the situation can be resolved? And so you're going to give your ideas on how you think the situation might be able to be resolved. And then that moderator is going to take both counts into both stories into account, because that's what a good moderator does. And so if you just use this, express, address, and resolve, it's a great way to have other people open up to you, and it's a great way to be able to resolve a conflict in an easy manner. It's just like a step-by-step 1, 2, 3. So that's the EAR method.
All right, so next we're going to have our lovely check-in tour EAs, and they're going to present a few pretty much conflicts. And we're going to have our OL, he's going to handle it correctly, in this case he, and you're going to basically tell us why he handled it correctly. So, take it away.
Okay, here's a helpful OL.
Well, howdy. Do you guys have any questions for me or anything?
Yes, I do. So where do we go after check-in?
Yes, after check-in, your first mandatory section, actually, both of you will go to a welcome session. It's actually at 9:30 in Rudder the Rudder Auditorium.
See, I told you, sweetie, that's where we go next.
So, does your daughter have any questions for me? Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. Okay. So I know she's really worried about like looking good for her student ID. Where do we go and get that made?
You'll get that made at the in Rudder in the first floor. There'll be a little place there where you can get those IDs made.
Perfect. Yeah, your hair looks
Pause.
good today.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, OLs. So, what are we going to be doing? What was wrong with that situation? We had that helicopter mom, right? Okay. So I know we talked about that a little bit earlier, but can anyone give me a situation? I mean, give me an example on how you would resolve that conflict.
Even if the parent is asking the questions, you can still direct your answers to the child to make sure that they know.
You can always direct your answer to the student. That's correct.
The student, excuse me. Make sure they know that they're the ones coming to university and not the parents. Not
Awesome.
The family member.
Yeah, so if you notice, Mr. Brett was trying to address the student. He was trying to talk to directly to Miss Amanda, but it didn't work. But you might have situations like that, and that's okay though. You know, you can only do your best as an OL. So I guess we're gonna have the next skit come on up. Ready, set, action.
Hi, so do you have any questions?
I don't know where my son's at.
Mandatory session.
Okay, this is a lot of stuff. I just want to know where my son's at.
This mandatory session that's going to be in Rudder, and it's going to be the tower right next to the Memorial Student Center. Want me to point you out?
No, I don't. I just want to know, so what time's lunch again for them?
They're going to have lunch later in the day, and...
Can I just go to Northgate? Because I really hate football prices and stuff, so I mean, like...
I'm sorry, we can't talk about that as a university-affiliated...
I'm an adult. Okay. So my son, he has this like little thing on his back of his ID. It says AH.
Okay, pause. All right. Can someone tell me what the conflict was there? All right, can you raise your hands and tell me? Yes.
He asked about alcoholic beverages and he asked about alcoholic beverages and where he could get them, along with he kept on asking persistently.
Okay, so what we had there was a angry parent. Again, we talked to you about how a parent might be having a bad day, so they might be angry, they might not be in the best state. So what you're going to be doing is, just like Miss Melissa was doing, talking to them calmly, answering everything in a AOP appropriate manner like we've taught you so far. So whenever he asked about alcohol, she redirected that question to something else. So, awesome. Can we have our next skit come on up, please?
And go.
Howdy.
Howdy. Welcome to New Student Conference. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good. Do you have any questions or anything that I can help you with?
Do all the cool boys look like you?
Do you have any questions about the Corps of Cadets or any interests like that? I can just. Well, I have some formations type stuff that I have going on. So
okay.
I'm busy with that. If you have any questions about that, I can explain that whole situation to you.
All right, pause. All right. So we have DJ, our OL, and what conflict do you think was presented here? All right, yeah.
That would be scamming.
Very good. There you go. All right, and so how do you think a good way DJ handled the situation?
Redirected the question. He was like redirecting the questions to less awkward stuff.
All right, yeah, just like that. So if you do have that problem, If you're comfortable, you can try redirecting the conversation, but if they're really persistent and you start feeling uncomfortable, don't hesitate to go find a friend, have a friend fill in for you, and then you can come get probably just Shelby or I or whoever the EOD is in that program. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about with conflict management is how to be aware, and this is relating to you personally. So right now, you have to be aware of your own emotions. So if you go into a situation, you have to be aware of how you're feeling that day. I know we talked just a little bit previously about how we had that OL who was in a car accident. He was fuming, and he didn't think he could cooperate with new students and their family members. And so you have to be aware of your own emotions because if you are angry or upset, you will act differently. Your emotions sort of dictate how you run, sadly, but you don't want to give off that bad impression to a new student or their family members. And so making sure you pretty much leave your problems at the door, come in with that smiling face and be that, oh, well, we need you to be. So maybe a good idea to take into consideration is taking a step away from any kind of situation. So this could be a difficult situation. This could be if you're just having a bad day. Hit like a reset button. And a good way I like to do that is going on a walk, clearing my mind for a couple minutes or so. Or you can just like take a time out, bring a buddy along with you, walk and talk, just sort of chill out, sit down, just get your head in the right area so we can, have you back on the floor and have you back to working. So.
All right, so you're also going to have to be aware of other things, or not personal things. So be aware of the emotions in the entire room, such as their comfort level with the situation. You want to take note on other people's voice level, tone, body language, attitudes. Pretty much just how do they look? Again, taking a break from the group is a great way to reset the emotions. So if you have to, just walk away. That'll be okay. You can come get one of us, but just like make sure you're okay handling it. You don't want to get. You still want to act professional. That's what I'm trying to get to, and then table the matter until a later date.
Okay, I know previously in the communication we talked to you about the differences between passive and active communication and passive and active listening. And so what we're going to ask you to do is, as an OL, you have to be an active listener. To resolve this conflict, you have to be able to hear both sides of the story. You have to be actively listening to different parts. You can't just sit there and start a daydream because then you're not getting anything out of it, and the people who are coming to you to resolve this kind of conflict are not getting anything out of it as well. So again, this will be one of the greatest tools that you can use when resolving conflict. You're going to hear both sides of the story, and you're going to use that, the information that you receive, and try and help out or come to that resolution. Okay, well, we had an activity for y'all, but I can just send y'all home with it, I guess. And so, yeah, it could be like homework. Yeah, no, it's fun homework. It's fun homework, I promise. Guys. I know y'all were hissing the homework, but it's not like it's challenge by choice. It's just something I thought was cool. It's pretty much a little survey that tells you what kind of conflict resolution type you are. So you had different conflict resolution types, such as like avoidance, collaborating, different things like that. So if you want one, please just come up to me after the meeting and I'll give you one. But it's really, really cool survey, and it takes like 5 seconds, and it's something I just want to iterate on that was like everybody has a different resolution style, and so it's pretty cool if maybe you can't handle a situation in a specific way. Somebody else might have a different resolution type than you, and so they're going to be able to maybe have a different thought process and be able to solve that situation in a different light. So
you should all do it.
Okay, so pretty much the takeaways for this, just be aware of the EAR method. Does anybody remember what that is? Yes, no? Okay, express, address, resolve. Good job, guys. Again, we also want you to be very aware. Again, this is personal, so be aware of your own emotions that day. And then we also have the being aware of others. So if you're like in a group setting, which we all are right now, maybe if you're talking about a difficult situation, maybe tabling that till another time, or maybe taking a break as a group. Maybe y'all can go out and eat, whatever, just to sort of resolve that conflict for the time being, and then coming back to it when everybody's a little bit more level-headed. Again, we talked about listening. Listening's got to be your greatest tool. You're going to hear both sides of the story. You're going to be an active listener, and hopefully that's going to help you getting the facts straight when you're trying to resolve a conflict. Activity outcomes that we didn't do. The end. It's not me.
So let's dance.
Dance party, let's go.
Don't need new music. Dance to the music.
Okay, Brittany.
Yay! We're just gonna have David and Leslie talk to you about some information stations.
David and Leslie. They're awesome.
Yeah, they are awesome.
That's how you're supposed to do CPR.
Stop. Please. Howdy.
Howdy.
We're going to be talking to you about housing, dining, transportation, and parking. Those are all very essential services that the university provides for its students. I'm sure all of you have used all of these services at some point, unless you didn't live on campus your first year. But you've used dining, transportation, and parking in your time at Texas A&M. So they're very essential things here. Huh? You have a clicker? That's the coolest thing ever. Cool.
Okay. So housing, the website for that is Office of Residence Life, or it's Office of Residence Life, and the website is reslife.tamu.edu. And during NSCs, there's tours that lead from the Commons and Hullabaloo throughout like the whole day, and there are also virtual tours. On-campus housing is available for new students and their parents while they're here for the NSCs. And the Office of Residence Life is located on the first floor of Kane Hall.
No?
No?
No? Hold up. Yeah. All right, cool. So there are several different types of hall styles that Texas A&M offers for their residential housing. Some ones that we want to bring attention to, I guess, are the different apartments that they have, which are the gardens. Those are located across University Drive on the intersection of University and College Avenue, and those are for sophomores and up. And the new White Creek apartments that they're building out on West Campus. So those are going to be like a normal apartment complex. Both of those are, but they're owned by the university and run by the university, so they're under the Department of Residence Life. Hullabaloo Hall was the most recently built residence hall, the first one since like 1984 or 86, I think. So it's been a long time since they've had a new dorm. Hullabaloo Hall is the newest one. It's really, really nice. And then the other types of dorms or residence halls are modular halls, and those have individual bathrooms. And then all the rest of them are suite styles, except for the corridor halls, which have community bathrooms.
Okay. There's not like an official deadline for housing. It's just whenever occupancy is full, and usually it is around early March, which it is early March right now. And assignment letters are emailed to the new students around July for the fall. And then there are living learning communities, which is a cluster of students who have similar interests, and they either require them to apply online or they get invited to join the living learning.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about something called AGOS, or the Adult Graduate and Off-Campus Student Services. So that is just a department that A&M offers. Basically, they provide services for all these different types of students. Anyone who lives off-campus, which is a lot of Aggies because we have so many students and limited on-campus housing, and then non-traditional students who are adults, not typical college age, and then also graduate students. They just provide a lot of different services as far as getting involved, educational services, outreach, and then also under them is a program called Aggie Search, which allows you to find a roommate to live with, whether that's on campus or off campus. Their office is Kane Hall B117. That. Oh. That.
Well, to find a roommate, like a lot of the off-campus apartments do like rooming matching systems if you don't request someone, and then there's also Aggie Search, which is what they just.
Okay. So now moving into dining, there are a lot of different dining plans available. You don't exactly need to know what all of the different dining plans are, just that freshmen who are living on campus are required to purchase a dining plan, and members of the Corps of Cadets are required to purchase specific dining plans, the Old Army or Yale dining plans that allow them to eat at Duncan Dining Center for their core meals. So dining dollars purchased as a part of a meal plan or separately will roll over from the fall to the spring semester if you buy a dining plan in the spring. But if you don't, then you don't get your dining dollars back. And any dining plan can be changed within the first 4 weeks of a semester, whether that's upgrading it or downgrading it.
Transportation and parking. So the website for that is transport.tamu.edu, and all the on-campus parking schedules are on there, as well as like live time schedules, and it tells you like where the bus is, and then it tells you about game day parking. You can purchase your on-campus permit. That opens in. I think it's like. For
for the following year.
Yeah, and then there's also hourly parking available in Central Campus Garage, University Center Garage, and West Campus Garage, and there are also the free 30-minute spots throughout campus. Sorry.
Okay, so for new student conference parking, they can purchase a temporary permit. Shelby and Nathan talked a little bit about that earlier. Those are actually $12, not $5, as Nathan had mentioned. So they are available online prior to their conferences or at that transportation table during their check-ins. The lots that are best for them to park in because of their proximity to most of the conference events are in West Campus Garage.